The following program is brought to you by Naleo TV, the People's Platform.
I'm Dela Cruz. I am serving as a moderator and host for our event here at the Lyman House Museum called Let's Talk Story. It is a forum featuring writers telling stories, Filipino writers, about their experiences growing up, stories from the old folks, stories from the Sakara, and all these important pieces that were part of a writing series that was sponsored by a grant from the Hawaii Council for the Humanities, administered through the Filipino Association of University Women. And so we gathering here at Lyman House, who hosting us, and there's about 16 different people who have shared excerpts of their stories. Some very powerful pieces. Why is this important? If we don't tell these stories die off. And I think it's really important for us moving forward, the generations of today, to be mindful of the sacrifices and the struggles of past generations so we can enjoy the lives that we have now. And so that's why we're here today.
I think it's important to tell our story because, first of all, a lot of our parents were not the ones to really tell about themselves. They would rather let people see what they have accomplished in their lives. The example of my father is such.
As was his character when he was told that no can be. He handled his response with grace and humility because he knew the truth. And to him, what was important about my appointment was the search for a better life that he came to Hawaii in 1946 for himself, and his family has arrived.
Today, as I reflect my 32 years of teaching, my heart soars with gratitude. I gave all my best, zeal, patience, enthusiasm, and time to my students, to my family, and to my dreams. My father's advice echoes in my soul. It takes courage, patience, hard work, and humility to achieve your ambitions, though he never saw his grandchildren graduate in college.
I started writing in middle school stories. So now I'm just writing stories of my mother, my father, and for my experiences with Native Americans and also with the mentally ill patients that I lived with. Everybody has an interesting story.
Yes, there was nothing the plantation workers could do. The sugar company controlled everything in their lives, their employment, housing, clothing, food. The whistle would tell the workers when to get up, when to start and end work, when to rest, when to eat, and when to sleep. The plantation managed the workers by dividing them in ethnic camps and playing the groups against each other with rumors and stereotypes. Whippings were accepted punishment, so they learned to be passive and not cause trouble.
Party baboy! It's early in the morning. I'm still in bed. Squealing sounds outside my bedroom window make me look outside through the slanted green tinted jalopy. Daddy, guys, party baboy! Let's go outside! I shout to my three sisters. My youngest sister runs to hide under the bathroom sink with her fingers wedged firmly into her ears. She does not like hearing the squeals.
Chop, chop, chop.
garlic mince. Chop, 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 pork belly. In the background, I hear Grandpa talking about running from the Japanese and hiding in a hole with their body. Mom talks about being carried on her brother's back. My grandma, she's crying. But I have no clue what they're talking about.
Migration of the heart. From the bustling street of Manila to the sun-kissed beaches of Hawaii, my migration story celebrates love, resilience, and the strength of human spirit. Every step, every tear, and every triumph has woven my story of migration, love, and belonging, bridging the distance between the Philippines and Hawaii.
My mother was dying. My mother, who only had an 8th grade education, but was the wisest woman I know. My mother, who sent me to college and law school on her waitress wages and tips. My mother, who never saw me in my law office or even in a courtroom due to the distance between us. My mother, who shared stories to her co-workers and friends about her abogada, or attorney daughter. My mother was near death and my world turned upside down. Sam and I arrived at the Kona airport the next morning. As we rushed to the hospital, I dashed directly to the Hilo room where my mother lay lifeless and was on life support. I immediately went to her and whispered in her ear, "Mama, I'm here. Please stay strong, and I promise to take care of you." As I left Mama's side, I found a quiet space just outside the ear room and cried my heart almost unconsolably. At that moment, as the only daughter, I vowed to come home to care for my sweet mother. This was an obligation I had to fulfill, something only a Filipino daughter could understand. I had 4 brothers, and all of whom would do everything for my mom, but this was not their obligation. It was mine. It was rooted deep within my being, and it was non-negotiable.
When I was a little girl in the Philippines in the early 1940s, I dreamt of becoming a registered nurse and moving to Hawaii. After I mentioned my dreams to my mom, she said, "You can't become a registered nurse because you're afraid of blood. You can't go to Hawaii because we are not there to send for you, and we are too poor to send you there." And I told her, if there's a way, if there's a will, there's a way. And I said, I'm not letting your income determine the size of my dreams, and I'm not letting your income determine my outcome.
Crisanto Buscas, her father, had begged her to get off the ship, but Catalina had shouted back, "It's too late. The ship captain paired me off with a man from a neighboring town and married us on board the ship. He did the same thing with the other single girls to protect us so that we don't get assaulted by the other men." The female passengers were outnumbered by a ratio of 1 female to about 100 males. Obviously, there was a large gap between the genders on the ship's manifest.
He built a 3-bedroom house for us using a hand saw and a handheld hammer. The roof was designed to be wheeled off to expose the platform where we laid the coffee beans to dry in the beautiful Kona sun. When the rain came, we would hurry and roll the roof back in place. Repeat the next day.
After a year, I think I was fluent with the Pidgin English. When people talk to me in Pidgin, I answer them in Pidgin. Now, I do not have trouble speaking in Pidgin. I love the language. I love Hawaii and this Pigeon English.
I was raised in the Hawaiian Islands, and she was raised 8,000 miles away in a mountain town of the Republic of the Philippines. I am a Caucasian of English-German ancestry from Europe, and Maria is a Filipina of an indigenous tribe of the Philippines. I was raised to emphasize individual uniqueness as part of the Hawaii style, over group consciousness. And she was raised where the extended family group took precedence over the individual.
Aloha, my name is Beth Sabala, and I'm happy to be a part of this event where people who are descendants of Filipino migrants can share the stories of how they got here and how their parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents arrived here and what has changed since then.
Well, when she was only 5 years old, the Seventh-day Adventist missionaries had offered to take 3 of the children from the family plantation to raise them in Honolulu in the proper Christian way. But Charing was the only one who didn't cry when it was time to go, so she went alone. And with every passing year, she grew into a refined young lady who spoke perfect English without even a hint of pidgin. Auntie Wilhelmina, the woman who took her in, was a painter, and her husband Vern was a concert pianist. They called her Rose. Charing learned from a very young age that she could do anything she wanted, even though she was the daughter of a Filipino migrant worker, as long as she put her mind to it and was willing to work hard. So at 20, just when she had finished 2 years of college, she fell in love with and married Richard Sabala.
Aloha, my name is Sandra Ke Una o Kamaile o Panaeva, Claveria, the daughter to a native Hawaiian, Harriet Haleaka Makuakani, and a Macario Indong Claveria.
I remember being referred to as, "Hey, you bukbuk, eh?" And I looked at them and said, "No, I'm a buklet. And me and my sister, we book ends." You know what? We learned to laugh at each other with each other. We never made it ugly. It was a time to just love each other where we're at.
I am so proud to be here and have learned the depth of who I am. I grew up at a time I was ashamed to be Hawaiian and forgot that I had Filipino, and it's taken me years to go to the depth of who I am, to discover the beauty of my daddy within me. He was rascal, he was loving. One word I remember as I listened to people's story is the idea of resilience, that he never gave up. Hawaiians would say puka true, but my daddy, he just stood firm on the belief that he is, and he always will be, a kind, loving, hardworking Filipino man. I am blessed to be here to hear the stories so I could stir up that part of me that was lost and have awakened the beauty of being a Filipino.
The stories that people wrote and presented at this event, hopefully it will be published one of these days. Thank you too. Yamanakunai or in Ilocano, I'm so grateful. Thank you.